fish heads, long time no see.
Been a long time.
Yeah, the last time we were here, I was chugging salt water and dropping F-bombs.
Blue Friday, that's what happens on a Blue Friday. Yeah, we have actually, between like hurricane and all this other stuff, we have not been here since Blue Friday.
Since Blue Friday cut, yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Wow, but we're back, so thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Welcome, you guys. Again, we appreciate you all being here. If you can, smash that like button. It's a requirement because we are giving some things away at the end of the show.
Yep.
2 Waterbox t-shirts. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Because typically, with the exception of a few weeks during the end of the year, we're here every week live with you guys, hanging out, talking aquariums.
Yeah, so today we're talking about getting your aquarium back on track. We're going to do some Q&A as time allows, so drop your questions in the chat. And being active in the chat is also how you are having a chance to win a Waterbox shirt. We're going to give away 2 of them. Mm-hmm. Ask questions, talk to each other.
Yeah, make friends in the comments.
Yes, exactly.
Which I see a lot of you guys doing. I get to watch that.
Yeah, they're chatting it up, which is great. So, you know, talking about catching up on your tanks or bringing them back from not the best scenario.
We have a little bit of that to do, don't we?
Yes, we do. You know, life gets busy, things happen. Yeah. You know, your tanks don't always look in that perfect condition, and sometimes they need a little reboot, we can say, to get them on track.
Life happens.
Exactly. Things, especially
hurricanes, tropical storms.
So with us, it's been 2 back-to-back hurricanes. Yeah. Blue Friday, and on the ORA Marine X 4820 Peninsula, we actually had a temperature probe come out of the sump. We didn't know it, of course, because we've been out so much, and it heated up the tank quite a bit. It does not make things very happy. And then holidays and just being out, it's seen better days, so we're going to clean it up a bit and just talk about, you know, how to get your tank back on track. If it's having some algae issues, if you had a malfunction that caused your corals to be stressed, it's real life.
Yeah. Anyone
who says they've never had a problem in their tank is lying or not been doing it very long. So it's things that happen. So we're going to actually clean up the ORA tank, get everything kind of back on track, and just talk about some of that stuff.
Yeah, so if you guys haven't seen the ORA build, this is one of my favorite aquariums that we have done on Waterbox Live. We did a fully aquacultured build from Oceans, Reefs, and Aquariums, I believe it's called, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. ORA.
Just say ORA, it's way easier.
So anyways, everything in this tank is aquaculture. The corals, the fish, the live rocks from Carib Sea, it's man-made.
Yeah.
The inverts, everything in this tank to this day was fully aquaculture. Again, one of my favorite tanks, matured tremendously. I don't know if we probably don't have it, but there's some pictures where we have like before and after, like when we first started it.
Yeah, there's quite a few episodes we've done on this one, even follow-ups. And not this Blue Friday, but the one previous, we actually did some progression photos when ORA was here on their segment. So don't be fooled by that photo. I cleaned the glass really well today. It wasn't so pretty, but I figured you guys didn't want to just sit there while I scrubbed clean glass, so I got that out of the way. But we'll show you some of the issues going on, and we're gonna, you know, work on getting that tank back on track. So
cool.
That is the goal of the day.
Yeah, so you guys get to see some real-time
cleaning,
Waterbox aquarium maintenance.
Yeah.
Which people tend to really like.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about some things, you know, if this happens, kind of what you should do, just if your tank is not as nice looking and the corals aren't as happy as they have been, you know, the steps to take to kind of, you know, get it back to where it was, because it's gonna happen. It's
the reality.
It is, absolutely. So, let's go do.
Ready?
All right.
She said go do.
Go do.
We're gonna go do.
Alright, so I'm gonna shut. First off is of course shut the system down. Anytime you turn off your tank for a water change or maintenance, turn off your skimmer, your auto top off, heaters if they're gonna be exposed, anything like that. So we of course have to get it shut down before we can do any maintenance on it. But if you want to kind of pan through, Keenan, and take a look at some of the stuff. So if you look at like the SBS corals, you're going to see we have some tissue recession, we have some bleaching. You'll look along sand bed and some of the rocks. There's a lot of algae buildup. There's even algae in the SBS from tissue that's died off, and then algae grabbed hold there. So these are the things that we're battling. We had the temperature probe come out of the sump, and since we did not were not around and did not notice it, basically the tank stayed at probably 85 plus degrees for not exactly sure how long. And that of course led to a lot of stress in the corals. The SBS take it the hardest. You know, the soft corals and stuff do handle it a whole lot better than other ones. So they're the ones that got hit the hardest. We had a lot of bleaching, tissue loss. They're starting to rebound, but you know, we need a little extra care in here. But the sand has chunks of hair on it, and we've got it all over the rocks. Things we just need to get to. Also, with not paying as much attention to it, our invert levels have dropped. So if we're not paying attention, we don't notice there's less snails or less sand creatures, less crabs. You're gonna start having more of that algae and stuff build up because they're not maintaining it all day long.
It's a good indicator for when you need to renew your cleanup crew.
Yeah,
too, right?
and usually, I mean, I'm very big on, you know, once a month, just kind of give an overview on how your cleanup crew looks, if you're noticing more algae come through, because that is going to really save you a lot of effort of trying to play catch up versus maintenance. So we're gonna have some critters over here from Living Reef Orlando that are going to be going in once we get it all cleaned up. But of course, first thing we gotta do is start draining some water. Also, you know, if your tank is getting off track, do a water test, check your parameters, you know, see just how much maybe it needs as far as the TLC. For ours, our levels are pretty good. Phosphate's not really reading anything, but when you have algae, it's usually going to tell you 0 when it's not because the algae is consuming it. So you can't go based upon that as your indicator. Nitrates, and also, you know, making sure that the levels like alkalinity and calcium and stuff are maintained where they are. All right, I'm just going to clip this in place and go start the siphon on the hose real quick.
I love the look of the tank when it's still.
Yeah, one of the best times to do photography and look at your tank is when all the pumps, the return pump, the power heads are off, everything kind of just stops. It's really neat. And if you guys don't know, this tank is one of my favorites. Whether or not you care or not, it's one of my favorite tanks. I talk about it all the time because it's all aquacultured. It's grown in so nicely too. The zoanthids have like completely carpeted the rocks.
Yeah, overall the tank is doing well. It did look a lot worse right after the heater thing, but you know, it is rebounding. But you know, also die-off and stuff and inconsistency in temperature leads to algae problems and other stuff.
Yeah.
So because I'm going to be siphoning up some sand because there's a lot of hair algae in there, I put a sock, filter sock on the end of the output of the hose because you don't want sand going into your sink and stuff. So if you're ever doing anything that has a lot of stuff that's going to be coming through the hose,
That's a great
doing your
tip.
sand, catch it in a filter sock. Try not to siphon up, you know, your snails and stuff that you do have. And I'm not taking much. I'll show you when I get a little bit closer to that side. Is when you're siphoning your sand bed, you do want to be really careful that you're not like pulling out a ton of it, because you're going to run out of
Just
sand.
like a very fine layer off the
Fine
top
layer.
there.
You do want to have pretty good control of your siphon hose. And I'm going to focus a lot more on where the clumps of algae are physically sitting in the sand. And then also taking the siphon tube onto the rock where there's some algae. But then by re-upping your inverts, there's, you know, that goal is for them to tackle the rest that's left. So you see I'm just doing real light layer on the top, because your sand is very important to your biological. You don't want to just go digging down and removing a ton of it. It doesn't need to be perfect, because you'll spend a lot of time and remove a lot of sand trying to get it perfectly clean. So I'm kind of just trying to take the chunks, being real careful around the corals to not suck up their tentacles.
Real quick, Jess, I got a couple of people asking about lighting schedules on the website. We used to have those. If you want to check those out, search Aqualumination Signature Series, and you can find lighting schedules. We don't have those on the website anymore, but it might come back in the future.
Yep. So I'm going to show up kind of over here. So right under here, like on this rock on the underside here, is a lot of algae. You can usually get a lot of it off just by like scraping it with your siphon hose. Another thing you can do is kind of pinch it off with your fingers or tweezer and then let it suck up into the siphon hose. because you don't want to just make it free floating, like scrub it with a toothbrush and just have the particles go everywhere, because you're actually going to spread
Make it
your
worse,
algae.
right?
Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
If you suck up too much sand, should you replenish it?
You would. So we've done some shows on that before, as far as replenishing your sand bed, because over time it does break down. You know, through siphoning and everything else, you will lose some of it. You want to replenish it with live sand only. Do not add dry sand onto your live sand bed. And it's going to make it pretty funky looking for a day or two. Keep your socks cleaned. I'll pick that up later. Keep your socks clean, and you know, just let it settle, and you're going to be good to go. So if you see here, it won't work too well for on the coral. That's what my hermit crabs and stuff are going to be pretty busy doing. You can also take some tweezers and try to remove it. But this bird's nest, it lost tissue on the inside, which allowed some hair algae to grab onto the surface. And then it just kind of spreads. And because it's so intricate in those branches, for us to physically get it out is pretty difficult. We got some small hermits that are probably going to live inside that for the next week or two, just cleaning it. And they're going to do a good job on that algae. If any of the dead branches are toward the outside, you can definitely snip them off, and it'll help cut down on, you'll see here, like just kind of clumps of hair algae and stuff sitting in the sand bed. The diatom discolor I'm not worried about as much. It's really just it's algae. It's going to be harder for the inverts to clean up.
Mackenzie says, always wear clean socks. Always have clean socks for your tank.
Yes, it does help for sure.
What you're saying, you're not getting a good signal of the camera?
Your mic's
Oh, your
cutting out.
mic.
Oh. You don't have to listen to me anyway.
I can just yap away over here.
Yeah, you narrate what I'm doing if my mic's not working. All right, I'm gonna move back up, hit that side real quick.
You're doing a fantastic job, Jess.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Really pro at siphoning the sand.
So you're getting a water change out of this as well as a sand cleaning.
Yeah, so doing a sand cleaning, water change. And I in general like when I do water changes, if there's like areas of dirt buildup in your sand, to hit those while I'm doing a water change. Because if you're already removing water, you might as well do as much cleaning as you can from it. See another one, this bird's nest over here. Got a nice little tufts of algae kind of in the branches, and you're not going to be able to get that out yourself. It's just not going to happen. You know, and if I had enough inverts in here when that happened, we probably would not see the amount of algae growing actually in the coral and the skeleton as we do now.
I'd like to know who in here watched the ORA build series for this. What do we call the build series on this? Do you remember?
Use an aquaculture tank.
Yeah, if you guys watched this
Fully
one.
aquaculture aquarium.
If anybody knows who Gary is, they probably watched this.
Yes.
Which Gary would probably be doing a pretty good job in there right
Gary
now.
would be good right now. We had to take him out because there wasn't enough algae in here, just even naturally occurring. But actually, I could probably put him back in here for a little bit.
It's funny actually just how things changed. I know we had a heater issue, but like this tank historically has been one of the cleanest, most sterile. Like we had trouble keeping the nutrients up in it,
We did.
right?
Yes.
For the longest time. And it's just funny how things change when tanks mature, you know.
Yeah, and just, you know, it's a sequence of things. It's like, you know, when the perfect storm of stuff happens, and it just leads to that, and then not tackling it fast enough. Like as soon as the algae happened, you know, I didn't get extra inverts in here, and you know, some of the things to be done that could have probably kept it less of an issue happening. But that, like you said, that's life.
Yeah, that's aquariums.
You know, especially in aquariums, if life gets busy, your aquarium's probably not getting the love. But the nice thing is they usually rebound, and you come out not that much worse for the wearer.
Gary was an Asarius snail, wasn't he?
Trocus.
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 They're asking if it was a turbo. It was a Trocus snail.
The biggest trocus ever. He's living in our 6-foot frag now. So I'm not doing a huge water change because our levels are generally pretty good. It's just really to get it cleaned up and siphoned, a little bit of refresher. And then I'll get back onto the normal water change schedule. I'm gonna let it just drain for a few.
I want to know what the viewers' water change schedule is. How often do you guys change water or do your maintenance? And what day? What day of the week?
Oh, if there's a certain day.
I used to always do mine on Sunday.
Sunday was your tank maintenance day?
Yeah. That's why I do like the water changes and like the major kind of things.
All right, so what I'm gonna do is while this is continuing to drain a little bit, I'm gonna throw a couple inverts in. Actually, I think I'm gonna go ahead and stop this and then fill, and then we'll throw the inverts in. So the main thing is if something happens and your tank is not crashing, it's just gotten off track, don't overdo it. Don't overcompensate. If you go trying to do a 70% water change and full sand siphon and all of that, you're gonna end up with a lot more issues because it's too much for your aquarium than doing the kind of small things just to get it back on track. So don't overcompensate.
Sorry, guys. I can't help myself.
The only reason why he got a peninsula.
The only reason. By his favorite tank, he can make funny faces at you. All right, I'm gonna go get this down.
Good times.
I would say I'm surprised, but I'm not. At all. All right, and I try to clip this in where it's going to go. Somewhere that's not gonna like knock a ton of sand around. Usually kind of into a rock and kind of bouncing off some other rocks. I'm gonna turn that on. So I'm not doing anything drastic.
Jess, I think every time you're maintaining the tanks, you need to go live and just, you know.
Huh?
I think every time you do maintenance on the tanks, we need to be live.
Yeah. Just cleaning tanks.
Yeah. Just set up a camera.
Just set up a camera. It'll be like when we show the fish tanks live and like no commentary.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
tank maintenance live. So we can get that filled up. Make sure always when you're doing a water change, you're putting the water back in, that the temperature is the same. Especially wintertime for a lot of people right now. Highly suggest putting in a heater. You go and dump that 70-degree less water temperature in your tank.
not going to be a good situation. No. It's those details that count, especially on a reef tank.
Yep. So of course, we're using our Waterbox salt here, mixed up. We'd bring it to about 77 degrees before we put it into the aquarium. And let's go ahead and add some inverts. These guys are going to do some work for us. I'm going to try and not fall on a hose. I'm gonna put them like in this area, just for easy. All right, so first thing we want to tackle is our sand bed. There's not much in here that cleans sand bed anymore, and some of your best things that are going to do this are going to be conchs. So these are conchs. Great thing about these is they do attain a larger size. They get a couple inches long. Some are usually between 3 and 4. And they move a lot of sand. So they only stay in the sand. They don't come out for anything. You're usually pretty visible to see the top of their shell when they're moving around, but they're gonna eat algae on the sand bed. They're gonna keep it stirred up. They're gonna eat fish waste and stuff that settles in. So they aerate it, stir it up, and keep it pretty clean. And it's gonna keep that stuff from settling on it and causing that fuel source for that algae.
How long do they usually last?
It just depends. It's hard to say. I mean, what is their technical lifespan? Relatively medium. But that's why in your home aquarium, you just have to check every month or two, see where you're at with your numbers, because no matter how friendly your crabs are, they might get eaten. Yeah. You know, if one is out and a crab is hungry, he might just go eat them. If he's upside down, certain snails, they might get eaten. These are Nacerius snails, probably my favorite snail ever. Also nicknamed the zombie snail. So these are smaller, but they're a bit more fast and active. And you're gonna see these guys are just going to go ahead and disappear. Generally, you're not gonna see these guys day to day until you put food in your tank. They sense it, and they come like flying out of the sand bed like little zombies.
Yep. It's like they come alive.
They do. And they'll eat fish food if they find it. Same thing, they're keeping it stirred up. They take out, you know, excess stuff in the sand bed, but you'll see like they're digging through. Generally only their snorkel can be seen, if even, until they come out looking for that fish food that you just put in. And it's really fun to watch, especially if you have like a handful of them in here. You feed your fish and then you suddenly just see all these things flying. I mean, they're fast. They come flying out of the sand bed.
Snorkel a little bit, but there he goes. He's already like, all right, time to go down.
Yep. So don't expect to see these guys too much, except for during that. So those are like my favorite as far as sand cleaners. They're very active. They're good size. They're gonna help keep your sand bed pretty clean. So they're gonna work and do their thing here. Now, since we do have hair algae, I don't generally recommend these unless you are battling an algae issue or have a large tank. Is going to be turbo snails. These are a workhorse when it comes to eating hair algae or a finger. They just will latch on anywhere. So problem with these is they eat a ton. So if you put them in a tank that doesn't have a lot of algae, they're going to starve. And when one of these dies because of how big they are, it will spike your tank. It's very rotten. And they're all attached. And so when you put them in to battle an algae issue, do have a plan for them when they run out of algae. Now, if you have a very large tank, you can maintain a few just by general natural algae that grows. And just when you put them in there, give them a place to hold on to. Because of their heavy shell, when they fall upside down. And they can't right themselves unless they're right next to something. So if one is not around a coral, a rock, a glass, or anything, he's gonna stay stranded for the most part, get weak, and then generally gonna get eaten or like rot and decay. So there are ones that you have to keep an eye on, like where is it? You know, does it need to be flipped over so that you don't have a dying turbo snail in there. But if your tank is super clean and it's not big, don't put in a turbo. It's just going to starve and then cause more issues. For general algae cleanup, you always want to have just a handful of regular snails in here. This can be astrias, this can be trochus snails. These are astrias. Trochus are a little bit harder to find, but they are my preferred one. But astrias do work well overall. Same with these, they don't flip themselves over too well because of the shape of their shell. So when you put them in, try to, he landed, place them upright. Because if you put them in upside down, that little hermit crab might just decide that he looks tasty, and now you're down a snail. All right, well, they want to fall.
Escargot.
Escargot, expensive escargot in the fish world. So got just a handful of those because our overall algae is not bad in here. You know, don't buy snails to clean your glass. They're not going to do the work of keeping your glass clean. That's just manual control with a magnet. These are for cleaning your rock and stuff.
I don't think I've ever heard you say that before.
I think I have.
That's a great tip, though. I never really thought of it that way.
Yeah, they're not there to clean your glass.
Pick your cleanup crews, they're not glass cleaners.
Yeah, I mean they'll graze on your glass, but that's not where, you know.
That's not what they're designed for.
I could put in 150 snails in here and my glass wouldn't stay clean.
Right, right.
So you do it based upon your rock itself.
This episode is sponsored by Waterbox Aquariums magnetic glass cleaners.
General upkeep, hermit crabs, blue legs, red tips, all of them are great choices. They are good because they do rock, they do sand, they eat algae, they eat fish food, they eat waste. Sometimes a snail, but usually, you know, not. So you always want to have a good amount of these because they are just running around. Their little claws can get on little tiny crevices. Like I said, in these birds' nests, I'm going to need those tiny little hermits to get in there and clean up that algae so they don't have to break apart that crag. and then frag it down into smaller. So they come in small, and they get to decent size, but you know, for the smaller guys, I'm just putting them right on there. Just let them kind of clean up if they want to.
Did you mention where you got these inverts from?
Yes, Living Reef.
Okay, good.
If you didn't watch Blue Friday, Living Reef came down and did a live fragging demo. Check it out. They are awesome.
livingreeforlando.com.
They're
You can order these on their website?
Yes, they do sell inverts online.
So check them out, you guys. Living Reef Orlando. It's a local fish store for us. If you don't know who they are, very wonderful company.
Absolutely awesome.
Small business that
corals,
you can support.
everything.
Yeah, you can get corals, inverts right on livingreeforlando.com.
Yeah, we're really lucky. They're about 30 minutes from here. So check them out. Corals, inverts, all that good stuff. And another one that's good for algae control. These guys are good for hair algae and bubble algae. Is going to be emerald crabs. Don't run.
I'm still having mic issues, so I'm going to stand a little closer to you.
Oh God.
I think it's just the connection between where we are in the studio.
So emerald crabs are good for hair algae as well as bubble algae. They're one of the few inverts you can put in to help keep bubble algae under control. Now with these guys, these are little ones. They get big, and the males can get some huge pinchers. So they are somewhat of a danger as they get bigger in a small tank or if there's not enough food. These guys can easily nab a snail and eat it if they're starving and there's not enough food. So you do want food sources or to spot feed them during feeding time if there's not any natural algae. But they're one of the only things you can do for bubble algae naturally in a tank.
Lucas sent us a super chat, so I got to call him out.
Hey!
Lucas says, "You rock. Looking forward to my Marine X 60.2 on its way." Congratulations, Lucas.
Awesome.
In regards to custom cabinets, do you take requests for cabinets smaller than the PW 1818?
No.
Yeah, honestly, Lucas,
That's
probably
our
not.
smallest.
That's our smallest size that we go.
Yep.
And I'm going to be completely. I'm just going to guess that it probably wouldn't be cost effective anything smaller.
No. I think you end up spending this amount as the larger one just by the production and time. So that's all the inverts that we're going in here. I'm not going crazy with them as far as numbers go. I'm going to give them a few weeks. Evaluate what it looks like with regular water changes and upkeep. Decide if I really need to add more or just give them the time to get the tank cleaned up and back to its original form. The only thing I may do is if the hermit crabs don't seem to do a great job inside these bird's nests, take them out, frag them down to remove the dead branches and algae.
Yeah.
And kind of restart them from there. Great thing about bird's nests is they grow fast, so it won't be too big of a deal.
And we've been talking about getting some new corals from ORA too. So
Yeah, to add this up, do a little, recheck in on everything. I mean, the stuff's gotten huge. If you look at these ganies, I mean, they're smaller now because the flow is on, but they're massive.
We
like
need to pull.
the hammer on that side is like 10, 15 heads.
Yeah.
It was a 2-head when it came. I want to say this tank is somewhere around 1.5 years.
We really need to. We did a checkup one time on this.
Last year, Blue Friday.
It was only.
We've done it since.
Wow. So it's been a year. So we need to.
thing might
We
be
really
close
need
to
to go back to those images and videos, and do another check-in to see the difference because
Yeah.
I bet you it was pretty cool.
So we got the water change. We've taken out some of the algae. Can definitely go in there and pick out by finger with a little bit more of the algae as you want. But another thing we're going to do now is to add some carbon and phosphate media because they haven't been changed as regularly. And especially if you're battling algae, even though your test says no phosphates, it's in there because that's what's fueling it. So you need to remove it, cut off its food source. So do not trust, just never trust a phosphate test that says 0 when you have algae problems.
Yeah.
Because it's there. So we're going to, I'm going to slide down here. We're going to just another minute or two until this is ready. And all I have here is 2 media bags. We've got some phosphate media here, some carbon here, pre-rinsed, always rinse. Otherwise your tank is going to be black, and so is every surface inside your sump. And I'm just going to
rinse it with RO water.
RO water. I mean, technically, really, you can use tap and just dry it out, but RO is going to always be better. And then you're just going to put these area in an area of high flow. Make sure it's not going to block a pump intake, anything like that.
Where are you putting them exactly?
I'm putting them in where the pipes come down.
Okay.
When we moved over here, I didn't put the torque reactor back in. And I really need to. So they kind of just media bag. If you can do a reactor, it's going to be a lot more efficient for making water
So like a
contact with that.
fluidized reactor or something is always best.
Yes.
But
Always
you
best.
can
In
also
a
do it the
pinch,
other way.
in the filter socks, in a high area flow area.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people do it in the filter socks.
Filter socks, because water's forced to push through there.
Yeah.
But the bags will get dirty and clogged up more often, so you do need to make sure you kind of rinse them off more regularly because they're not protected from any of the detritus and stuff. So, all right, I'm gonna go crank this for a second. Let's get finished filling.
Ross says, why are my Zoas and GSP disappearing? It's probably because you're fragging them and selling them far too often. No, I was just kidding. But Ross was asking, why are my Zoas and GSP disappearing?
Oh. I mean, the tank could be too clean.
Yeah, that's a great point. Too sterile.
Yeah. There could also be a pest in there, especially for the zoos that can eat zoanthids. Not really the star polyps, but zoanthids and star polyps will not thrive in a low nutrient environment without good zooplankton, phytoplankton supplementing.
Ross, all I'm saying, man, is GSP is my favorite coral, so you better get this under control. But yeah,
Man, you're throwing threats out there.
check your nutrients. Might be way too low.
All right, so plugged everything back in. Like I said, this is not going to be a tomorrow. It's all back. The colors are back on the coral. You know, but you don't want to take any extreme changes. But
I have seen though, like when you're doing this kind of thing, like on some of my older tanks, when you start getting the tank back on track, the color can come back.
Oh, absolutely.
Within like a week later, you can start seeing things start to really improve.
The heater thing happened about a month ago, and I will tell you that those SPS looked on the verge of not coming back.
Yeah.
And they look pretty good now, but it's still just some continual keeping the water good, getting that algae off of them, and just giving them time with stability to color back up.
Again, you guys, we're giving away some Waterbox swag at the end of this Waterbox Live episode. So the currency to win that is number one, smashing the like button, subscribing to the channel, hitting its best friend, the notification bell right next to that, and then also making friends in the comments and putting
That's one of the reasons why I love LPS and Softy so much. Is they didn't really care too much that it was 85 degrees for however many days. You know, they didn't look as happy, but they rebounded really quickly. Something to keep in mind is the hardiness of your coral will determine how it reacts when something does happen.
Yeah.
And we're back. Boom!
I was trying to time the I was trying to time
That's pretty close.
trying to time the snap. It was the fade that screwed it up.
Yeah. So we're gonna have to revisit that aquarium.
Yeah, we should.
Get a few more in, let everything recover for the next couple weeks, a little bit more, the algae under control. I would love to see those pictures now of, I guess we're coming somewhere close to 2 years. That one's been up.
Could that, well, aside from the 220.6 Dream build, I don't know if any of you guys remember that. If you guys remember the 220.6 Dream build, you got to post that you do. But that was probably the longest running thus far, right?
Yeah.
So this might be the runner-up.
Yeah, that was for the longest, and when we moved, that one came down. But this one, yeah, it's the second longest one we had up. Because I mean, a lot of the builds we do, they end up combining to a different one. We do different stuff, so.
We can't have 47 aquariums set up,
It'd be great, but I cannot take care of 47 aquariums. So a lot of them do have to be a more short term or combine into something else. But this one's sticking around. Maybe one day it'll get upgraded in the tank itself, but for now, it is my favorite aquarium as well.
Yeah, it's mine also. It's hard to argue with that.
All right, do we have any questions that we can gather?
Not really seeing many questions.
Okay.
I'm seeing a lot of comments. I know Rich got to some of them
Yeah.
out there, so.
Okay.
Hey, it's not my fault. Okay.
No, it's good.
Again, if you guys have questions, post them below. We're going to give away a couple of shirts here at the end. We're really just excited to be back.
I know.
We're going to be back for a few weeks, and then there's going to be a few weeks where we're not back.
Yeah,
But
it's the holiday. It's
Yeah, it's
December, November, December is a tough. set because Blue Friday, we've got holidays, Thanksgiving. Now
Yeah.
we're in December. Christmas is coming.
Yeah. But we have some pretty cool stuff planned for next year for the show, so you're definitely going to want to make sure you guys stay subscribed and tuned in.
2023 is going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff
Certainly
planned. So,
is.
all right. So no on the questions. Just go ahead and give away some shirts.
Yeah, just give me 1 minute for that one.
All right. So we got 2 shirts given away, and it all depends on how active you are in the chats.
Yes. How many times did you like the stream? That's only 1 entry. You can actually only get 1 entry.
Yeah, better see.
There's really not any entries. It's just,
No,
yeah.
I don't know what it is. Random
Don't ask
picking.
us.
I don't
Whatever I
know.
pick.
Yeah, whatever Keenan picks.
Right now, these 2 people made it really easy to pick. So
Oh, okay.
So we
go with it.
got
I'm
some winners.
Guessing they're very, very active in the comments. So the more Keenan sees your name just scrolling through, the more likely you're probably going to get picked.
Yeah,
So
or the earlier you're here waiting for us to go live. maybe.
yes.
There might be some
Sometimes
secrets.
it's just the most valuable question because sometimes people don't really like to talk a lot. But they,
Yeah.
But they throw in some like a golden, yeah.
All
but they
right.
help out other people within the comments, and that's always good.
Cool.
All right. All right. Ready? All right. Got some Waterbox shirts.
Waterbox
Ready?
drum roll. Haven't seen that for a few weeks. Mark's Nano Tanks and Reef the Sea Forever.
Woo!
Congratulations, you two. Again, email winners at waterboxaquariums.com. They'll get you hooked up with your
Y'all
swag.
were chatting it up before it even started, and y'all kept it going. So definitely well deserved.
Yeah.
It is noticed. We do love you guys that come in here. We see you guys regularly in the stream.
Yeah.
Always talking to other people. So we do definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, and again, you guys, we do try to do this every week if absolutely possible, and we do give away a tremendous amount of stuff, whether it's swag, aquariums,
Yeah.
all that good stuff. So definitely tune in. We're here typically every week. A little screwy right now because of the holidays, but Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yep. So it means we're going to be here next week. We're going to talk about the Cube 20.
Yeah.
The model that's been around with us since the beginning is like the
It
OG,
really
like the
really has
OG
been.
of the cubes out there.
The OG
Tried,
Cube 20.
true, simple, beautiful. So we're just gonna cover that because it's one who's always been in our line.
And I saw some people in here today that said they have Cube 20, so
Yes,
it's perfectly
it's-
fitting.
Yep. So we're gonna talk all about that next week. I think it'll be a fun episode. We're gonna show some beautiful, inspiring setups. So definitely make sure you join us next week at 6.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Thank you all for watching. Remember to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. And also remember, you can visit us online at waterboxaquariums.com.
Also join our official Facebook group. Thanks for watching live. See you next week.
You